Chapter 1 of Molly Make Believe. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Molly Make Believe by Eleanor Hallowell Abbott. Chapter 1. The morning was as dark and cold as city snow could make it. A dingy whirl at the window, a smoky gust through the fireplace, a shadow black as a bear's cave under the table. Nothing in all the cavernous room loomed really warm or familiar, except a glass of stale water and a vapid, half-eaten grapefruit. Packed into his pudgy pillows like a fragile piece of china, instead of a human being, Carl Stanton lay and cursed the brutal northern winter. Between his sturdy, restive shoulders the rheumatism snarled and clawed, like some utterly frenzied animal trying to gnaw its way out. Along the tortured hollow of his back a red-hot plaster fumed and mewled, and sucked at the pain like a hideously poisoned fang, trying to gnaw its way in. Worse than this, every 4 or 5 minutes an agony as miserably comic as a crashing blow on one's crazy bone went jarring and shuddering through his whole abnormally vibrant system. In Stanton's swollen fingers Cornelia's large, crisp letter rustled not softly like a lady's skirts, but bleakly as an ice storm in December woods. Cornelia's whole angular handwriting, in fact, was not at all unlike a thicket of twigs stripped from root to branch of every possible softening leaf. "Dear Carl," crackled the letter, "in spite of your unpleasant tantrum yesterday, because I would not kiss you good-bye in the presence of my mother, I am good-natured enough, you see, to write you a good-bye letter after all. But I certainly will not promise to write you daily, so kindly do not tease me any more about it. In the first place, you understand that I greatly dislike letter writing. In the second place, you know Jacksonville quite as well as I do, so there is no use whatsoever in wasting either my time or yours in purely geographical descriptions. And in the third place, you ought to be bright enough to comprehend by this time just what I think about love letters, anyway. I have told you once that I love you, and that ought to be enough. People like myself do not change. I may not talk quite as much as other people, but when I once say a thing I mean it. You will never have cause, I assure you, to worry about my fidelity. I will honestly try to write you every Sunday these next 6 weeks, but I am not willing to literally promise even that. Mother, indeed, thinks that we ought not to write very much at all until our engagement is formally announced. Trusting that your rheumatism is very much better this morning, I am, hastily yours, Cornelia. P.S. Apropos of your sentimental passion for letters, I enclose a ridiculous circular which was handed to me yesterday at the Woman's Exchange. You had better investigate it. It seems to be rather your kind." As the letter fluttered out of his hand, Stanton closed his eyes with a twitch of physical suffering. Then he picked up the letter again and scrutinized it very carefully from the severe silver monogram to the huge Gothic signature, but he could not find one single thing that he was looking for. Not a nourishing paragraph, not a stimulating sentence, not even so much as one small, sweet-flavored word that was worth filching out of the prosy text to tuck away in the pockets of his mind for his memory to munch on in its hungry hours. Now, everybody who knows anything at all knows perfectly well that even a business letter does not deserve the paper which it is written on unless it contains at least one significant phrase that is worth waking up in the night to remember and think about. And as to the lover who does not write significant phrases, heaven help the young mate who finds himself thus mismated to so spiritually commonplace a nature. Baffled, perplexed, strangely uneasy, Stanton lay and studied the barren page before him. Then suddenly his poor heart puckered up like a persimmon with the ghastly grim shock which a man experiences when he realizes, for the first time, that the woman whom he loves is not shy, but stingy. With snow and gloom and pain and loneliness the rest of the day dragged by. Hour after hour, helpless, hopeless, utterly impotent, as though time itself were bleeding to death, the minutes bubbled and dripped from the old wooden clock. By noon the room was as murky as dishwater, and Stanton lay and fretted in the messy, sudsy snow light, like a forgotten knife or spoon, until the janitor wandered casually in about 3 o'clock and wrung a piercing little wisp of flame out of the electric light bulb over the sick man's head, and raised him clumsily out of his soggy pillows and fed him indolently with a sad thin soup. Worst of all, 4 times in the dreadful interim between breakfast and supper the postman's thrilly footsteps soared up the long metallic stairway like an ecstatically towering high note, only to flat off discordantly at Stanton's door, without even so much as a 1-cent advertisement issuing from the letter slide. And there would be 30 or 40 more days just like this, the doctor had assured him, and Cornelia had said that, perhaps, if she felt like it, she would write 6 times. Then night came down like the feathery soot of a smoky lamp, and smutted first the bed-quilt, then the hearth-rug, then the window-seat, and then at last the great stormy far-away outside world. But sleep did not come. Oh, no. Nothing new came at all except that particularly wretched itching type of insomnia which seems to rip away from one's body the whole kind protecting skin and expose all the raw, ticklish fretwork of nerves to the mercy of a gritty blanket or a wrinkled sheet. Pain came, too, in its most brutally high night tide, and sweat like the smother of furs in summer, and thirst like the scrape of hot sand-paper, and chill like the clammy horror of raw fish. Then, just as the mawkish gold-crayed dawn came nosing over the housetops, and the poor fellow's mind had reached the point where the slam of a window or the ripping creak of a floorboard would have shattered his brittle nerves into 1,000 cursing tortures, then that teasing, tantalizing little friend of all rheumatic invalids, the morning nap, came swooping down upon him like a sponge and wiped out of his face every single bit of the sharp, precious evidence of pain which he had been accumulating so laboriously all night long to present to the doctor as an incontestable argument in favor of an opiate. Whiter than his rumpled bed, but freshened and brightened and deceptively free from pain, he woke at last to find the pleasant yellow sunshine mottling his dingy carpet like a tortoise-shell cat. Instinctively, with his first yawny return to consciousness, he reached back under his pillow for Cornelia's letter. Out of the stiff envelope fluttered instead the tiny circular to which Cornelia had referred so scathingly. It was a dainty bit of gray Japanese tissue with a crimson inked text glowing gaily across it. Something in the whole color scheme and the riotously quirky typography suggested at once the audaciously original work of some young art student who was fairly splashing her way along the road to financial independence, if not to fame. And this is what the little circular said, flushing redder and redder with each ingenuous statement. The Serial Letter Company. Comfort and entertainment furnished for invalids, travelers, and all lonely people. Real letters from imaginary persons. Reliable as your daily paper. Fanciful as your favorite story magazine. Personal as a message from your best friend. Offering all the satisfaction of receiving letters with no possible obligation or even opportunity of answering them. Sample list. Letters from a Japanese fairy, bi-weekly. Especially acceptable to a sick child, fragrant with incense and sandalwood, vivid with purple and orange and scarlet, lavishly interspersed with the most adorable Japanese toys that you ever saw in your life. Letters from a little son, weekly. Very sturdy, very spunky, slightly profane. Letters from a little daughter, weekly. Quaint, old-fashioned, daintily dreamy, mostly about dolls. Letters from a Bandar-sea pirate, monthly. Luxuriantly tropical, salter than the sea, sharper than coral, unmitigatedly murderous, altogether blood-curdling. Letters from a gray plush squirrel, irregular. Sure to please nature lovers of either sex, pungent with wood lore, prowly, scampery, deliciously wild, apt to be just a little bit messy perhaps with roots and leaves and nuts. Letters from your favorite historical character, fortnightly. Biographically consistent, historically reasonable, most vivaciously human, really unique. Love letters, daily, 3 grades, shy, medium, very intense. In ordering letters kindly state approximate age, prevalent tastes, and in case of invalidism